Hello, everyone. Welcome back to day number 13 of our Cybersecurity Awareness Month series. And today's topic is MDM, which brings up another kind of question. Why can't IT folk just use normal English words to describe what it is that they do? And I will tell you, I don't know. It's a great question. I think it's so that the vendors can cram as much information onto a piece of material that they possibly can, but that's just a kind of a passing theory I'm throwing out there. We'll figure it out someday. Um, and it just again a very quick aside. It's amazing because now IT itself has become so complex with so many different areas within it that the 3 and 4 digit acronyms that we're using, or I should say characters, the 3 or 4 character acronyms that we've been using, we're running out of. So they're getting reused depending on different industry, which makes it interesting when you go to shows because someone may be saying something in passing and all of a sudden someone else's neck cranes around and perks up because they heard something that, well, the acronym was right. It was just in the wrong context. So I don't know. Maybe it'll change, probably won't. But aside from that, what is MDM? Well, MDM stands for Mobile Device Management, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Now, how does it work and what does it do? Well, mobile device management, you would think is just for phones, but it's really for anything that's mobile. And the honest truth is that we could even apply mobile device management to desktops themselves as well. Um, you don't get as much of a feature set or kind of control that you would over a phone, for instance. But for some companies, especially now that a lot of them have gone to virtual and remote only, it kind of works because in the classic model, what has happened is you go to your place of business, they have a server, they have a domain, they have an environment there, the company network and the company computers, and those computers subscribe to a company policy, and everything kind of you can set from a centralized server and everything's happy. Now, where we have a lot of places where the workforce is now working remotely, it breaks that paradigm in many ways. And when you're dealing with company data, which is what we're always looking to protect, you kind of run out of ways to protect it if the device isn't talking. So any policy change is never actually going to be moved out. Now, there are other ways of doing this aside from mobile device management. There's a myriad of things, but mobile device management would probably be the easiest way for people to convert and adopt at this point. And besides that, there is a real reason for already having it in place, which we're actually going to talk about now. So let's talk about a normal phone. Now, whether it's issued by the company or not, if you have company information on that phone, the company's kind of responsible if something ends up on that phone and you lose or expose that data somehow through your phone. The company has exposure there. So there is a reason why they want to put policies upon your phone. Now, the most typical one comes with mail. If you've ever done corporate email, chances are almost always that it's going to ask you for some certain permissions. Now, if you just clicked away, you might not have noticed it, but it typically asks for at least the ability to handle what type of login credentials are required for the phone. In other words, it's going to require that you have at least a 4 digit or maybe a 6 digit PIN to get into the phone. And then the other thing it's going to do, it's going to request permission to be able to remotely wipe and nuke the phone in the case that the phone is lost or stolen. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, we had talked about kind of the encryption ordeal the other night. And prior to encryption, this was how you really was one of the few ways that you could almost guarantee that the data would be safe, because if they couldn't get in within a few tries, you would typically put a policy in place, especially on phones that were kind of had sensitive information on them, where the phones would wipe themselves and sometimes in a destructive fashion where the phone wasn't even usable. So just keep that in mind. That's kind of where the roots came from. But, let's fast forward to today. Yes, we do want to have that. And now we can enforce that the phone actually is encrypted. We can require it to be encrypted before you can get your email on the phone. Oh, and there's other things we could do in there as well. Like, let's say we don't want TikTok on, and that's a thing. We can actually set up our mobile device management policies to look to see what applications are on there. If these are corporate controlled devices, typically the corporation will also control what applications are installed. And I don't mean which can be installed, but they will literally push out to those phones the application sets that are needed for the company and no more. And they will not allow you to download anything else. So that's a fully controlled phone where typically you've got some pretty sensitive information that you're dealing with, and the company needs to have control for either compliance or sometimes just insurance sake. They need to have that level of control over the device. Now, mobile device, as I said, you can apply that to just about anything, including some desktop computers. But where does it really kind of shine and do its thing? Well, it shines a lot, obviously, with the phones, but also tablets and laptops. And we're seeing a lot of this being deployed right now in terms of company issued laptops that are going home for remote workers. So these laptops, yes, they have, they used to be inside of a corporate controlled network, and they were fed policy directly from the local servers. Now that they're remote, they can still be fed policy through mobile device management. And like I said, it's not the only way of doing it, but it's one of the easiest ways to do it and kind of meet those compliance metrics. So with that being said, I hope that this kind of makes sense, and mobile device management, is kind of a concept now that you understand in exactly why it's pushed out there. And it really just comes down to, once again, data safety and having some type of control over those devices so that they can't be kind of harvested and then exploited for the data on which they have. And sometimes it's not just the data, it's the connection back to the data, especially if that phone has a VPN or something like that, where it's got a solid connection into some privileged area of the network of your company. No one wants to get that leverage so that they are hacked or breached. So that's really where all of this policy management and mobile device management comes into play. Now, there's a lot of players in this market right now. There used to be just a few. We still have to deal with, on iOS, we have to go directly against Apple. I don't think anyone has figured out a way around that. So if you're a corporation dealing with iOS, with any type of Apple device, there is a little bit of extra work you have to go through to make sure that you're able to successfully push applications and such out to those devices. But once you go through that little bit of red tape, you kind of have pretty good access to everything that you would need to do. And you can do as much or as little of this as is required. Obviously, if someone's using their own personal phone, you can't dictate what applications they have on that phone. Well, at least not without having some pretty unhappy end users. So keep that in mind. And, it's one of the things that we'll talk about later about asset control and where your data lives, because it's really, at the end of the day, about the data and protecting that data. And mobile device management is really all about protecting that data. So I hope you found this helpful, interesting, and informative. And until next time, stay safe and stay online, and have a great day. Bye-bye.